Welcome to Guidance for Better Life. Today I'm happy to have a friend and an author, Renee Walker, who's going to share a story, a true story she had of getting to tell her father how much she loved him. Now, that's not that surprising. A lot of people do that. But this story was different because God allowed her to do so when her father was near death and beyond able to physically communicate. So this story is a little bit different, and I think you'll find it interesting. And thank you for coming. Hi.
Hi.
Hello again.
Yes.
Your Stories and Testimonies of God's Love, Book 4, and I don't know what chapter it is. It's in there somewhere. It's a good read. This is really neat. You had a desire. Well, first of all, you had a nudge. Let's start with the nudge.
Okay.
You're just going through your day. Everything seemed fine with your dad. You didn't expect him to pass. You're
Right.
just going about your life. And you had a feeling or nudge. What was that about?
Well, my dad had been, his health was failing relatively rapidly.
Okay.
And I had talked to him a few days prior, and some of the lucidness and some things were slowly decreasing. But on this particular day, it was at night, came home from work, I'm tired, but I had this nudge, I should call. And
Was that a strong, like, that voice?
gut feel, like you
definitely-
need to do this.
Okay.
And I blew it off. I was tired, and I said, I'll call him tomorrow. You know how you can put off things
Sure.
like
Nothing
tomorrow?
yeah, and it'll be just fine tomorrow.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't.
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
What had changed?
His health status had changed. He was placed in hospice care, but they also had to sedate him pretty heavily for his safety and for his comfort as he was going through the transition of the body dying.
Okay.
So he was not any longer conscious.
So you couldn't really communicate
No.
anymore. That was it. There was no one more chance.
No, that was it. When folks come to that type of end of life, a lot of times they do sedate them to help them
Okay.
just, not try and get up when they can't and different
So
things.
If you had answered that nudge, and we know it's something we talk about in other shows, you felt God, the divine, the Holy Spirit, gave you that nudge to call. Would he have been lucid that night?
Yes.
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 But in the morning, that night, when you didn't call, sometime late in the morning, early in the morning, they sedated him finally.
Exactly.
So on the surface, it looks like Renee missed her chance. Literally, your last chance to have a loving conversation with your father.
Correct.
But God can do cool things, and the
Amazing
Holy
things.
Spirit gave you another chance. Would you share with the audience? This is really beautiful because there's no way physically you can talk to him.
No.
But God knew what was in your heart. That was really strong, right?
It was very strong in my heart, and I tend to believe, I can't prove it, but it was in his heart too.
For him too to.
For us to have an exchange,
And you've done another story in another one of our books where for a lot of years you had a very strained relationship, and then it became very nice. And you were able to give and receive love back and forth. And now you really started liking giving and receiving love with your father, because it's been a lot of years where that was difficult for you and for him. So how did the Holy Spirit help you accomplish your prayer when it's impossible?
Well, nothing's impossible with God, first
There
of
you
all.
go. Nothing's impossible with God.
And
Absolutely.
I wasn't expecting anything, but I was on the phone with my stepmom, finding out that they'd sedated him and, checking in with her, how she's doing with all that. And once I got off the phone, I immediately went in to singing Hugh.
The love song to God. And of course, we have a link below.
The reason why I started singing Hugh, because I still could recognize the love and the care my dad was receiving and his wife, my stepmom, was receiving, and I was grateful for that. But I also apologized to God, to the divine, to the inner prophet. Like, I know better. I know when I get a nudge like that, there's a time frame. There's, that you need to respond upon it.
Yeah.
And
So you felt the Holy Spirit, God, through the Holy Spirit, had given you a blessing to tell you this is your last chance, and you decided not to, which
Right.
is your free will. So you were healing to express gratitude that he was in good hands,
mhm,
and also to say you were sorry you didn't follow the suggestion.
correct.
You weren't trying to, you thought talking to your dad was
Yeah,
not possible anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
From a physical standpoint,
It was
that
impossible.
opportunity was a lost
So
opportunity.
when you were praying, doing the Hugh, a love song to God, which is a prayer, you were doing those two things.
Yes,
Okay.
I was. And then pretty much immediately, I found myself in this room. There was a soft light in the room, and my dad was in the room. I could still see the bed he was laying in, but he wasn't laying down. He was kind of not sitting up all the way. And there were other souls in the room. I could recognize some of them as family members that had passed that I knew. And there were some other souls in the room that I didn't know, but they were comforting. But my dad, when he saw me, his face lit up and mine lit up. And I was with some of my spiritual teachers had brought me there.
Wow.
And we went over and I introduced the spiritual teachers, but then after that, they left for me to be able to talk
some
with my
privacy.
dad. And we got to
Wow.
share, the love and gratitude. And, I wanted to tell him about transition of life, not
Not to be afraid.
prayed. My father, because of his mental instabilities, had a lot of fear in his life, a lot of worry. And I honestly felt from a really young age that there wasn't much love there. And then as he got older and progressed, I just really felt he never had peace or joy in his life.
You said in your book, we're not covering the entire story, but the first part of the story, you said you, for many years, you held a prayer in your heart because of some of his limitations that he would experience joy, peace, and I think love. Those three things.
Yes.
Did it look like he had some joy and peace?
He did.
Right at the end?
He was fine. I mean, he was fine. We could talk. I don't know how else to express
So you
it.
got to express what you wanted to express from your heart,
Yes.
and he was excited to see you, and he got to express.
Yes.
Now, the audience is really probably confused now because we said there was no way he could express anything physically. He was sedated, and I think 5 days later he passed.
Correct.
So this is where I need to explain God can do anything. And God and the Holy Spirit literally took a type of spiritual travel while your body was physically still in Virginia.
Correct.
And you didn't even ask for this. This
No.
was a gift.
This was a
gift
big
from
gift.
God. That you were taken, and God can do this with us, and we do this at our school quite a bit if the divine allows it. You spiritually, you as soul, that eternal part of you that is in this body, and someday will leave, and then someday come back to another body, that's that eternal part of you. The divine can take you as soul, we call spiritually travel, and took you, I guess, how far away?
It was in the inner worlds because it wasn't
Okay.
even the room where my father physically lived in his home.
He was already partially in the
yeah.
inner worlds. So somewhere, and that's wherever God took you and him, and you had this beautiful meeting.
Yeah.
Did that satisfy you as much as if you physically were sitting talking to him while he was in the bed?
Absolutely.
It was
Probably
just as
a little
filling.
bit more.
More?
Yes, because being able to relate soul to soul, which in that experience, that's how we were relating. There weren't barriers that the physical body or physical that
All the barriers,
Yes.
fear and anger and worry and depression, all these barriers from just pure love back and forth.
yeah.
You're saying all those blocks and old knee-jerk reactions. When somebody said something, you act a certain way or you close down. That's really beautiful. That was pushed aside, and he was as soul, as he's get ready to go on, even though he looked the same.
Yeah.
And you were there as soul, even though this body was in Virginia. It was a more beautiful exchange than if you physically had picked up the phone in some ways and actually called him.
Correct.
So much more beautiful. Plus, you actually saw him happy.
Yeah.
And it sounded like he had joy and
He
was fine. And that had been a prayer since you were young, that he had peace, love, and joy.
Yeah.
And you've been holding that in your heart for years for your dad. Now, that's a bonus. I didn't see that as clearly until now, till this interview. Actually, that prayer was answered, finally.
Yeah.
When he was ready to translate and go on, you got to see him with, I guess, peace, love, and joy. He was happy.
He was happy. And what a gift that was, to me, to experience that and see that for him. But what a gift for him to have that experience as well, because again, I'm not him, but from my observation and my experience of his life, and because of the mental instabilities,
he normally wasn't that joyful.
No.
He had a lot of struggles in his life.
Yeah.
Depression and some mental issues.
Yeah.
So you got to see him beautifully happy and express love without any type of these mental blocks and whatever, all those little trigger points. And you got to see your prayer answered after all these years. So you got two things. One, that prayer was answered from a long time ago. And two is you got to say goodbye in the most beautiful way. You got to see him basically glowing and happy, and he got to express his love for you.
Yes.
And it was impossible.
Nothing's impossible with God.
That's the point. Nothing's impossible with God. It's absolutely true. Even though physically the time had run out, there was no way Renee's father could respond. He passed shortly after this particular visit. God allowed the two of them to experience each other's love soul to soul. So everything's possible with God, and I hope this show blesses you. Thank you.